WWE Unreal Season 3 is in the books. And Andy, of course, as we say when we cover documentaries on this show, we're not going to cover everything. We want you guys to go watch it. We're just going to hit some high points, hit some of our favorite stuff. But overall, Andy, overall takeaways, I feel like they're finding what this show is. In season 3, I feel like they're starting to get into a groove of giving us some details about 2 to 3 main stories, and then doing a much better job of getting more and more superstars involved and telling us a little bit about their backstory, introducing us to them personally. I feel like they're starting to find a groove.
Yeah, but in a way, this was also for me like probably the weakest season. I wasn't a massive fan of it. The information that we got was cool. I think more so seeing the Cena stuff, I think was the most interesting out of all of it.
Yes.
But there wasn't like this big moment that I can really think of that we got as like the other 2 seasons where we saw the heel turn, we saw the stuff with LA Knight, we saw some of this other stuff that was going on backstage. So I don't know. Like I think you're absolutely right. Like finally having a cohesive story process that we're telling this through, because the first 2 seasons did feel very chaotic.
Yep.
But I think that chaos was kind of important to the show as well, because this one didn't feel as chaotic and it didn't feel as, as good or as important as the other 2 seasons, I think.
Lots of wrestling purists, when this show came out, have basically said, I'm never watching this. This is giving away too much. You've heard The Undertaker talk about it. You've heard Bully Ray talk about it. The list goes on and on. Seth Rollins has even said, this was really hard for me. And, everybody has said one thing or another about pulling back the curtain. Do you think that played into the way season 3 was produced and presented, in the fact that, hey, maybe we did give away a little too much on the first 2 seasons? Let's reel it back and not give away so much, and I say that because a lot of the John Cena stuff that we saw and that we heard, we sort of knew. We just heard it straight from John Cena's mouth and straight from other people's mouth. You know what I mean? So maybe this was a thing where they were pulling back some of that extra behind the scenes.
Maybe. I also just think that there wasn't a dramatic thing taking place during this part.
Yep.
And I think that, we talked about, we all went to see the WrestleMania 41, like what went down with the Cena and the Cody stuff. And, like the year before, or the Unreal before that, with all the Punk stuff and everything else that was going on. I think this one, like, we were missing that. Is this real or is this not in WWE? Like we didn't really have that going into this season. So I think that plays a part in it as well. But I do think they did pull back. Like we weren't in the writers' room a lot.
No,
this season, which is one of my favorite parts of it, because then you get people like Michael Hayes showing how dumb they are when it comes to people like Chelsea Green. Which, by the way, I love that she shouted him out in the post show. That was done perfectly. So I just think I think they are trying to figure out what's going to work for them, what's not going to work, and what the wrestlers are comfortable with showing. Like that is a massive part of this.
City Kitty live with us in the chat. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. She loves Unreal. Keep it coming. I do too. I think it's fantastic. Produced by the same folks who produced the Quarterback series on Netflix, which I absolutely love. As much as I love Unreal, the Quarterback series is my favorite series of this kind of style. Andy, City Kitty asking, where's Cody and Randy going next? Let's get to that at the end, because I do have a point about that. But you just mentioned we didn't have this big dramatic moment. We didn't have, is it real or is it not? This show covered from SummerSlam to WrestleMania this year. What's a moment that you would have liked to have seen them cover that they didn't? I know I'm putting you on the spot here when it comes to that. I know they talked about Oba Femi. They didn't do anything with Brock's retirement, so that could be one. Is there another moment or two that you're like, man, I would love to have had them dive deep into it?
Even though they talked about it, I would have loved a deeper look at the reasoning behind what they did with Cena's last match itself.
Yeah.
And the tap out. Like, I know Cena talked about it, and he had his normal John Cena lame answer that he always gives is, I wanted them to hate it. They should, like, it's going to be the worst thing. And like, come on now, you can be better than that. So like, I think that, like, that to me, I think we could have gone deeper into that. I think it also would have been very interesting, like, to talk or to dive deeper. They probably can't because of, the rights issues and everything else. But like the first Rumble in Saudi Arabia, like, talk about that, go deeper into that, like, look at areas like that. I think that would have been more interesting than some of the other stuff we got.
I think we could have, speaking of the Rumble, we could have got more into AJ Styles' retirement. Like, from completely out of nowhere. Like, give me some of that. Like, obviously, AJ has done several interviews since then and be like, look, I had this plan for a long time. I was going to retire at WrestleMania 41, decided not to, decided to go all the way to the Rumble, this, that, and the other. But I would love to have seen, yes, I know the focus needed to be John Cena's retirement, but it would have been great to piggyback that with AJ and at least give us 15, 20 minutes and talk about that a little bit. Let's keep talking about John, because John was the focus. You said there wasn't a singular dramatic event. Well, the focus of this season was the John Cena retirement tour. And it was really cool to see Cena talk about some of this after the fact. And I mentioned a few minutes ago, we've heard him talk about it, this, that, and the other. But it was awesome, like seeing him and Logan Paul put together their match in the middle of the ring. And just all the things that he talked about with the way he was wrestling when he was a heel and intentionally making it boring and terrible and volunteering to tap out. Like, even though we sort of knew those things, Andy, he's one of the GOATs, no matter what anybody says. So it was really cool to be able to see at least some of the stuff behind the scenes of his retirement tour.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see him kind of put his hand up and go, yeah, I took the boring aspect a little too far. Like, I made this bad. Like, I made this unwatchable at times. He, like, the fact that they did that, and the fact that they were, just upfront about, yeah, the heel turn wasn't working. Like, it wasn't going the direction it was going in. So just turn him babyface. Like, he's John Cena. We'll just turn him babyface. Doesn't have to be a reason. Doesn't have to be this big story. Just, he can come back out and say, hey, I'm a babyface now, and everybody will forget and keep moving on. So I love that they recognize that, and they talked about it. Like, I think that, plus, I don't think Cena, from fans' perspective, because he does shoot for the stars. Like, you can't deny that John Cena takes massive, massive risks, and sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they're some of the worst things you've ever seen in professional wrestling history. Like, that's just part of the business. But I feel like in this documentary, like, hearing him talk, I don't think people realize how smart or how much Cena absolutely understands this business in and out. Like, he gets it. No matter how much we always like to say he can't wrestle, and there was a time period where he really couldn't, and I don't think it was him. Like, I think that was the company making him be like that. But if he sees an opportunity and he knows this is what the fans are wanting, he knows this will make money, he knows this will be the best for everybody, he'll be the one to step up and say it. And he'll be the one, and like, he can see it before a lot of other people can. And I think that is what I've taken away from this, is how smart Cena is when it comes to just wrestling as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people who just dunked on Cena just to dunk on him need to watch this and need to realize, hey, like, yeah, he was getting shoved down your throat in the 2000s and this, that, and the other, but he knew what he was doing. And he still, like, what he was doing then still works to this day, to an extent, obviously.
Yeah.
But like the guy, that's why he had the longevity that he had. That's why he's considered one of the GOATs when he's not one of the best wrestlers ever. You know, like he just, all of those things played into it. And kudos to John Cena. I love that his motivation, and he said this right at the top of the first episode, the why is everything. Why?
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you want as long as there's a why. You give him a why and he's going to do it. And it's so important in wrestling, in the current creative style, in all of those kind of things. We talked 20 minutes ago. We still don't know the why that the Usos and Jacob Fatu are suddenly getting along. The why is very important.
Yeah.
So, and John emphasized that. So I think that's just a huge takeaway, I think, for wrestling fans as we are in this era of the internet wrestling community where we dive in and we're critical and we're this, that, and the other. The important thing, Andy, is to answer the why. Why is all this happening? And once you answer the why, then we're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And even coming off of that point, like kind of just thinking about the history of John Cena. This is not a John Cena podcast, but it kind of is, because that's the main focus of Unreal. But like a lot of people never would have thought that matches like John Cena versus AJ Styles, John Cena versus CM Punk, John Cena versus Daniel Bryan, even John Cena versus Shinsuke on that one SmackDown. Nobody would have thought that those matches would be as good as they are. But that's because Cena in those moments understands who he's wrestling, knows that they're the better wrestler, and lets them wrestle their style, and lets him just be the foil in the middle of it.
That's right.
Like that's why that worked. Like Punk versus Cena in Money in the Bank 2011, Punk couldn't have beaten anybody else but Cena. Like it had to. Cena was the perfect spot for that. AJ Styles was the perfect person for that. Daniel Bryan, even though the Authority stuff happened right after that match, it always had to be John Cena because John Cena was the opposite of them. And he understood that, and he let it happen. Like that's why the why is so important, because like you talked about, why are the Usos and Jacob Fatu friends now? I can even stretch it back to why did Jimmy turn on Jay after he super kicked Roman first? Like they're like the why is so important, as to what is going on. And why would Hogan sell his soul to be the third man? Why would John Cena turn to align with The Rock? Like these are the whys that have to be answered, because it's the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And if what you're doing doesn't make sense, then the rest of it doesn't.
And honestly, there's been lots of rumors on the internet about Cody turning heel and why he didn't, and this, that, and the other. That's the question. We can't answer the why. That's why Cody's not a heel right now. We can't answer the why, and we don't have a plan for afterwards. That's why. That's it. It's that simple. It's like, just turn him. Why? If you're going to
just turned Cena, and look how it went.
Exactly. And their why was, we need something shocking.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes is not going to let that happen. I'm sorry, y'all.
No.
He's making too much money for the company. It's not going to happen that way. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox there. Let's talk about the other big focus of Unreal, and that was the return to wrestling of AJ Lee ahead of WrestlePalooza, making her return after, what was it, Andy? 11
years, I think.
11 years, I think, something like that. Maybe more. 11. So
I think it was 11.
Let's call it 10 plus for the sake of argument. All right. So 10 plus years, AJ Lee comes back. I thought it was really cool. Rhea Ripley said something similar to this. I think it was on Unreal. It might have been on the Stephanie McMahon show on ESPN that she did, where she visited different places, and Rhea was on there. She said that she could not find the feeling of her character until her music hit. And then as soon as her music hit and she walked out, it was like, there it was. And AJ, being 11 years away, said the same thing. So it's more understandable. But Andy, I think that's so cool And one of the coolest things about Unreal is wrestling fans, no matter how big of a fan you are, you have a hard time separating the character from the person. And that statement right there, I think really helps us separate these people from the characters they play on TV. Because a lot of times they're not anywhere similar in any way.
Yeah. Well, even like, I saw Kevin Owens talk about his return, and he said, I never understood a couple weeks after the Stone Cold match at WrestleMania. He talked to Austin, and Austin said he was nervous about going out there and the crowd actually caring about him and wanting to see him wrestle and wanting to do all this stuff. And Kevin Owens is like, you're Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like people are going to care. And then he said, but then I got into Gorilla and went, are they actually going to care that Kevin Owens is back? Like, are they actually going to care about who I am? And that was only after, a year and a half injury. Obviously, the circumstances around his return are very different. But like AJ Lee was one of those that we never thought we get to see in WWE again. We never thought she was actually going to wrestle again. If she didn't show up in Punk's run during AEW, most people thought there's no way she was going to show back up in WWE. But the fact that she was so nervous about it, but then when she walked out there, it like the light switch came on, shows how good these wrestlers are, and shows how great they truly are. Because the great ones can do that.
Yep.
Like Rhea Ripley's and your AJ Lee's and your Austins and your Owens, like even though they've been gone for a while, once their music hits and they walk out, it's like they just transform into that person.
Well, AJ said on Unreal, she said, I haven't skipped in 11 years.
Yeah. I couldn't tell. Like it looked just like her. Like she was the exact same.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Being the fan that when you started AJ, or you started watching, AJ was in her heyday. She was in her prime. She was dominating. Same thing with CM Punk. Obviously, did you see enough on this series about her return to satisfy you as a fan from that era?
Yeah, I did, because I think with AJ, I think it's different with Punk because we kind of expect him to be around. But AJ was one of those that I figured she would come in to do a couple matches and then she would step away for a while. And then maybe she comes back, maybe she doesn't. And if she doesn't, we at least got that moment. Like, because her retirement, she even talked about this in Unreal, like her retirement came so fast and kind of just came out of nowhere.
Yep.
That we never really got that moment.
Yep.
I think it was why Punk was such a big deal for a lot of us too, is because we never got that final moment with him. Like he was off TV and then he was never back, and we never got that moment again. So to get that moment and to see how important it was for her to get that moment as well is great. But the one thing I love is at the end of it, she said, I realized I'm still pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And that I can keep going, which makes me think she might be back. Like she could come back at any point in time and keep going, which I think is honestly better for everyone. Like AJ Lee is one of those that doesn't feel like she is a part-timer trying to relive her glory days. Like she feels like she still fits in right along with this crop of talent.
Talking WWE Unreal Season 3 right now here on Squared Circle Radio. If you're live with us in the chat, drop those comments and questions. We would appreciate that very much. City Kitty, live with us. Rest in peace, Larry. Yes, that was some of the hardest parts of that documentary to try to get. Is Punk and AJ talking about Larry. That was really, really tough. I want to talk about one more subject from Unreal, and it's one that I don't think that we got enough explanation for, and that's the situation with Bron Breakker. And a lot has been made on the internet right before Unreal dropped. Coincidence? I think not. About how Bron Breakker has been unhappy with his creative. And I did a segment on this podcast a couple weeks ago talking about that and how I thought that was stupid, but maybe we'll get into that. My point being, Andy, they talked about Breakker being a possible Royal Rumble winner on Unreal. And then Triple H said he felt like it might be too much too soon. And he didn't want people to think that they were shoving Bron Breakker down their throat. And then Bron Breakker didn't win the Rumble. And we didn't really get a follow-up after that as to why Bron Breakker didn't win the Rumble. We just went straight to, well, he got hurt. And then that was that. And then his return at WrestleMania. We really didn't get an explanation as to why he didn't win the Rumble. Am I missing something here? Like, I feel like we should have had at least a follow-up on why it was okay to go with Roman Reigns versus Bron Breakker.
Yeah, because if we're forcing anybody down people's throat, it's still Roman Reigns, which is a topic for another day. But listen, right. I think you're right, because how do you go from does Braun win the Rumble to he doesn't even really get in the Rumble?
Right.
Like he's comes out second and gets attacked before he even gets in the ring, gets thrown in the ring, and then is immediately eliminated.
Yep.
So that just seems like a massive drop from out of nowhere.
I think I was okay with that, because I do think the Logan Paul spot in Elimination Chamber was supposed to be Bron Breakker, because clearly we were building to Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker at WrestleMania, which, if this rumor is true about Breakker hating his creative, you are going up against Seth Rollins and are going to win at WrestleMania. I don't know how you hate that, but again, I digress. I was okay with that story. I just didn't like that there was no follow-up.
Yeah, which is kind of the theme of Breakker in a lot of ways is
it is
doing stuff and then not a lot of follow-up, which is very frustrating when you see that what he's able to do and see the things that he, how good he actually is and how good he can be.
Yep.
And I think it's one of those that he wasn't good to go for for WrestleMania against Seth, and like that was probably very difficult, and he got the big moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, like, that's one of the things that we didn't talk about yet, is I love after Seth's injury and they did the turn angle.
Yes.
Like how important Seth was, and Paul Heyman was, I don't care that I'm hurt. You spear me and you kill me.
Yep,
like you run through me. Do not hold back.
Yep.
Like take me out completely.
Yep.
I think that was such a big moment. And then to go back and to watch it and to see he didn't hold back. Like he ran right through Seth, like he's run through everybody else. I think that part is fascinating. But it feels like, one, the injuries made that thing go on way too long. But then two, it never felt like it was ever going to go back to where it should be.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you can get past that with the injuries and everything else that they did.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're 100% right. Just a string of bad luck, and you can't be upset about injuries. You can be frustrated by it, but you can't help it. It's nobody's fault. So unfortunately, that's what happened to Breakker. That's what happened to Bronson Reed. That's what happened to Seth Rollins, and the vision was just, and Logan Paul, and the vision is just cursed. They just are. Now
when you put Austin Theory in anything, it's going to get cursed.
That's 100% correct. Anything else from Unreal Season 3 that stood out to you? Big moments, memorable things that made you look at some things differently?
Not that it made me look at things differently, but I really enjoyed the moment before Mania when Cena took time to go talk to Oba and Trick.
Oh, that was
cool.
Like
to tell them, like, this is your moment. Like, if I can give you one piece of advice, everybody's going to tell you to to just stay focused and go out there. And I'm going to tell you, when you walk out there, break character for a minute and take it in.
Live in the moment.
Just take it in, live in the moment, and then live in it long enough, and then go right back into character, like stuff like that. And then when he walked away, Trick looked at the camera and was like, that was John Cena. Like John Cena just shook my hand and gave me advice. Like just moments like that, I really, really enjoy about this show.
We're an hour into the show, and I'm about to say something that might prolong a conversation.
Yay.
But here we go. One of my biggest takeaways from Unreal Season 3 is I loved reliving Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 42. And the reason that I say that, I know they're not going to address the TKO.
They didn't address nothing.
I know they're not going to do that. Like
No.
they're not going to address McAfee. They're not going to address Jelly Roll. They're just not. But that's what made me enjoy reliving it. It's like, you know what? At the end of the day, all the crap that we went through with McAfee, with TKO, Jelly Roll, whatever actually happened, none of us actually know. Take it all away. And you put Cody and Randy in there, and the way that Cody talked about that, I really honestly enjoyed it and made me want to go back and watch that match through a different lens. I honestly, Andy, that I'm not blowing smoke and I'm not trying to be a shill. I really did enjoy that. I think it brought a better light to the WrestleMania match.
I don't know if I'll say it brought a better light, because you're very much skipping the massive elephant in the room of what's going on.
For sure.
Sure. I think that's one of the things that I always took away from it, is how important that moment was for Randy and Cody.
Yes.
Which made what happened and the TKO stuff even more frustrating.
Sure. Yep.
About it. That's honestly one of those matches for me that I don't know if I'll ever go back and watch it. Like, I don't know if I can make myself go back and watch it. Like the Cena match is the same way from 41. I don't know if I can actually go back and watch it because of the things that went into it. But like, even then, I don't think it was a great match from the beginning. Like, I think it was just, it was not what I wanted it to be or what I was expecting it to be. And that's not a knock on Cody. That's not a knock on Randy. It's just, after being beaten down for so many weeks with that story, I had low expectations going into it. And then even in the moment when it didn't even meet those expectations, it's one of those that it's always going to be hard for me to go back and look at. So I like that they looked at it. I like that they talked about it, and that they got Cody to be open about it and to move on with it. I like that we got to see Pat back inside Gorilla with the neck brace on. Like, that was funny. Yep. But it's one of those that it's not my Starrcade 97, but like it's not one of those that I can go back and watch.
I'm not going to talk about Starrcade 97 tonight. But I will say you're not alone in fans thinking that way. There are a lot of fans, I'm sure, that are not going to be able to go back and watch that match or relive that moment. But I think that's part of the beauty of Unreal, is you're able to just look at things a little bit differently, and maybe it makes some fans appreciate it, maybe it doesn't. But I think, again, that's the beauty of Unreal.